this is basically the same thing. Students at home can use their own reality to investigate. Teachers can give a group explanation of specific projects and techniques for how to do that, and then the students follow up and actually do it. Teachers can do individual check-ins, and the results of their work are important to the group, and their accuracy is important because they're building their knowledge based on their own observations. So the difference between the inch and the centimeter really does matter. It can be group work, and that's the compiling data together. So it's not just a worksheet. And there is an intentional process for informal and frequent ongoing formative assessment so that you're constantly kind of checking in. Again, we're learning mapping techniques. We're focusing on hands-on skills and problem solving rather than a bunch of words that kids memorize an answer to. The students gain agency, which is then the ability to transform their world. And we're really seeing a lot of teachers here trying to work with this one. And it also creates a space for self-determination of learning, so that if a kid finds an interesting idea here, that's a good thing for them to go on with. Okay, and slide 21.
Thank you, Deirdre. So as a special education teacher, remote learning was really tough, and I don't even want to call it remote learning. It was crisis learning. So I started to do some digging into different factors that affect the job responsibilities of what a special education teacher has to do. And I really kind of got interested in this idea of how much a special education teacher can handle and how that should be measured. So, you know, these students have distinct needs, and those needs can take up, you know, a lot of time and extra work and modifications and, you know, just a lot. And that's what we're there for. We love to do it, but there's only so much time in a day. So I was reading about caseload versus class size. And caseload is a method of evaluating what the special education professional does based upon time versus the idea that the class size is what we're actually managing in terms of regulations and limits, right? So in my classroom, for instance, I can have 9 students until I have a paraprofessional, but it doesn't take into account, well, I may have 1 or 2 really high need students, or I may have 6 really high need students the following year. So that's going to take up more time to be able to give those students what they need. So we really need to look at different models to make sure that we're advocating for our students and give them the best that they deserve. And when I was doing the research, I came up with this, I found this analysis of the different ways that states look at the student to teacher ratio when it comes to special education. And some states, I'm going to say better, but the more thorough ones look at a lot. They look at the age of the student. They look at if a paraprofessional is in the room. They look at the educational setting that the student needs, the type of services that student needs, their eligibility category, the severity of the disability, and that individual student needs. So those class rosters are built on those things rather than just the number of students that are allowed to be in a physical space at one time. Excuse me. And NEA has some resources that explain this better and go through 2 scenarios of what a class load based on number of minutes should look like. And this was one of the scenarios, and the one that they outlined here actually gave 55 minutes of time that was unallocated, so that if there was a student emergency, you were free to assist. If a parent needed special consultation, or if you got a new student in, the special education teacher was really able to give attention to those things instead of just being forced to process these students through a factory mill, like sometimes we feel like we have to do. So as we're looking at our workloads for equitable distance learning, we want to make sure that because this is so much tougher on our special education, special needs students, we need to have more time for parent and caregiver contact. It's harder to refocus virtual students in a virtual setting than it is for in-person. So we need to think about how we're going to do that. They definitely require an increase of individualized attention and support. We know that they'll be experiencing a greater need for additional supports, including social emotional supports, especially when we went through the crisis learning in the spring. It was a big disruption to the consistency that we're used to. So we have to put things in place to provide them that consistency. And then when we get to our medically fragile students, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that there's an established health support routine that needs to be accommodated into their school schedules. So if we're, at school, we need to think about, okay, if the family has somebody coming in to help at the home with medical concerns, well, what does that schedule look like? And how can we look around it to make sure that we're not placing too much pressure on the family to do too much in the course of, a couple of hours?
Hey. As a summary for this, and thank you so much for thinking through that for special ed, because it does just get lumped. We want to start in the fall with Zoom class norms, which have to do with the kids learning to socialize and talk appropriately. They would start with all about me projects to introduce themselves to the class. Again, because it's all back focused on the kids. The online programs that students can do on their own and that monitor their progress could be a part of this. It's as a sort of an extra that sort of just checks to make sure the skills are in place. We need to have SEL check-ins, zones of regulations, feeling checks. This becomes a standard for the kids. And yoga, mindfulness, meditation, movement, brain breaks, that you really can't have kids just sitting in front of the computer, whatever's on. They need to be broken up. I saw a really cute thing the other day with a kindergarten teacher sending the kids off to get their peluches, their stuffed animals to share. Self-directed goals and monitoring together. So that's everybody working together. So the kid takes some responsibility, but the parent, the student, family, and the teacher are all part of that experience. There's the daily and weekly schedules and individualized do list to cross off. Again, because this is focused on kids. Teacher and special education para's office to assist them. Because there just needs to be set up. And then students, so the equitable distance on the broad scale, learning requires a new paradigm, and the student agency, it's just amazing to me that how everything that's kind of applicable for the special ed kids is also applicable to the general education students. But here the students gain agency to transform their world. That is actually the role that we have as educators at this point in the 21st century. We have got to give them the tools to face the future. So project-based learning on their lives emphasizing action for social justice is crucial. Ethnic studies curriculum and educator inclusiveness training needs to be integrated into all of this. As I've mentioned before, smaller class sizes is crucial, and want to start with it now and then keep it when we're back in the classroom. And free access to internet and devices for all, including assistive technology. So we had said before the computers and the headphones, but also if kids need other things, translations, other issues as well. All of that has to be dealt with. Again, to repeat, the remote tech support should be by the district, and there should be ongoing tech professional development for the teachers. Teachers should not be spending hours and hours a week helping the parents to figure out the tech. But again, if tech is not our entire focus, that it becomes less maddening. We need to ensure that digital resources are age appropriate and not over their heads. This all then implies the abolition of standardized testings, which is a great thing to get rid of. Hiring and retention of more Black educators and other people of color. We have the food distribution centers that are ICE-free and police-free zones. And in the broader sense, going back to what the basic needs are, we need to have living wages, not just for educators, but for all, including the students' parents. And I believe that the next slide, yes, is Sierra, who texted me recently, and she will be back in a few minutes. So I'm going to suggest that we skip over and go on to Ms. Phoenix.
I think I see her. I think I see Sierra. You're on mute, Sierra.
Oh,
Introduce her.
Great. Sierra's here. Great.
Hey, you all here.
I'm going to jump in. Sierra is a high school in Oakland.
So, is there my video on?
It was lagging, yes.
Is it better now that I have my video?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So one way that I felt like I could take project-based learning online, but still have a way to do it where students can actually touch stuff, which I think is an important part of science. I'm a biology teacher at Oakland Tech in Oakland District. And each year, my students report that around 20% of them have never planted a plant before. So I wrote a Donors Choose grant to get materials for every student to grow 2 plants at home, a fast-growing and a slow-growing plant. I think it's important to have a fast one just so that they can like see a seed actually sprout, and then the slow-growing one diverse plants. And I'm also super interested in booking, so I found a resource for digital books, which I linked in there too. And so yeah, a big thing in the 9th grade bio curriculum is photosynthesis, but photosynthesis is something you can see with your eye, and it's also a chemical reaction that happens at the molecular level. So I feel like students need to see the fact that the plant is growing bigger in both volume and also heavier in mass, so that they can connect the dots that plants are actually taking the air, the carbon in the air, and they're turning it into the sugar, glucose, and cellulose that they're building their bodies out of. So I think that's like something really amazing that students don't really realize, that we wouldn't be here without plants, and that plants can literally turn air into food for the world. And then this year, I feel like, I think that because I got a bunch of bean and corn and squash seeds, I think it would be an appropriate time to talk with the students about some planting practices, such as the 3 Sisters, which is the rotating planting of beans, corn, and squash in a way that supplements the soil health. And I have another resource I wanted to post that I just used for the first time today, and it's a way that students can interact with a slide presentation to show like how they feel about certain topics, because what I've noticed so far is that we have a low percentage of students turning on their audio or their video. A lot of students want to participate just exclusively in the chat function. For my time, I want to try and put this in the chat so you can see how I have like emojis that they can drag to show how they're feeling and show their understanding of certain concepts. It's all like self-reporting. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sierra. I'm going to introduce our next presenter. Her name is Michelle Pennix. She's a retired principal from Louisville, Kentucky. And she is working to coordinate right now a program that will allow students to attend learning hubs throughout the city that we're working, or she is working to organize to have happen at our local churches. So it's my pleasure to introduce my former principal in Louisville, amazing lady, Miss Michelle Pennix. And we'll see if we can green share.
Everybody, I am so grateful to be with you and to sharing about with the kids that you serve every day. I know this is a challenging time, but I am encouraged by everything that's been shared so far tonight. Sometimes I look and think I have a good, better, best attitude. Good, better, best. Keep working till your good is better and your better is best. So I always look with that eye on how things can be improved, and everything that has been shared tonight is best practice. And so I am ecstatic to be able to share some of the things that are happening here as we kind of travail through this time together. One of the things that is core to who I am is I've exited from public education as a retiree July 1st. Everybody's supposed to clap for me. I'm supposed to see everybody do that. I'm excited. A little bit of a delay, but okay. I'm excited because I just took what I was doing for the last 22 years as a principal into the community. So where I worked with teachers to make sure that we were doing the best we could for students, the best ways to educate. Now I'm doing that in the community with families and making sure they know how to advocate for themselves. To that end, I've kind of developed my own philosophy. It's called the ABCs of education and justice. And so it's pretty simple to remember. A means abolish standardized testing, and I saw that on a screen. B happens to be my favorite, which is ban suspensions, because I personally believe that suspensions tend to criminalize and dehumanize our children, especially our Black boys and girls. And last but not least, C means create curriculum that cultivates curiosity. And so what Sierra just shared about the plant project-based learning activity, I think is phenomenal and does exactly that. So to that end, when I came out of the school system, I began looking for ways for the community to be invested with teachers in classrooms. And what I noticed 3 weeks into it is that in Louisville, our superintendent said we were going virtual for the first 6 weeks. Like I'm sure at this point, all of you all know in your own cities. And so it became a quick 180 into a different direction. How can the community support what's happening in the classrooms? And one of the things that we wanted to do was really be intentional about those students who were participating. Here in Louisville, we went from about a 94% participation rate to about 74%. But the kids that I'm talking about that we really wanted to go after were kids who maybe only got on once during the entire 2.5 months we were out of school. so it is being very targeted and focused in on where are those students and how can the community help. And to that end, we decided to kind of share the community need through the Black church. And I say the Black church, even though I chose this picture, and I hope that you all can appreciate this for a couple of different reasons. Advanced for the time. But I also chose this picture because it reminds brown and poor students do not have access to this same new and current technology. You can also notice in this picture that there is one student and there are two adults helping this student take in all that there is to learn about this new technology in this new space. And so that is very different than what we're seeing now with remote and virtual learning happening across this country. Instead, the kids who need it most are by themselves in small rooms, and no one is helping them take advantage of all that there is to offer. So saying that, working with the church, here's what we've decided to do. Talk about what safety would look like, models would look like, time, capacity, and resources. So this picture looks familiar to you, I hope. That upper left-hand picture is what I would say is a relatively small church. And the bottom picture is a relatively large church in our community. We believe in better institution in our entire city than the church. It has been there for over 100 years, and it has stood the test of so.
You're breaking up a little bit, Miss Pennix. We may have lost her. She was lagging. Is she still on the call? Rebecca, we see your screen, just a heads up. I think Michelle got dropped off here. That's,
I don't.
Did we lose her? Yeah, it looks like we did.
We do have significant Wi-Fi issues in Louisville, and some areas have better bandwidth than others, and but at the same time, I've seen her do. She did one last night, a town hall or her own show. So while we're waiting for her to get back in, maybe we can. Would
you like me to share my screen and we continue on? And then if she's able to join us again, we can bring her back in after the breakout rooms?
Yes, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there she is. I was going to say, I'm hoping she can get back on. Yeah, you were lagging a little bit. And did you drop out altogether?
Is it any better? Can you hear me?
Yeah, that is definitely better.
I did, but it tells me my bandwidth is low. I've never seen that before. Okay.
So we can close our videos.
I hope this holds on, but I also think. Say again.
We can all try turning off.
Me?
We can all try turning off our video to see if that saves bandwidth.
Yeah, we'll go. You've got the video, Michelle.
Okay. So just one person, let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good. So that was a perfect segue into why this is so important. because I live in the hood. And bandwidth is what many of our students are missing right now. The supports that they need for this to be a time they can participate at high levels. So to that end, we approached several local churches who we believe are best suited to be of support to schools during this time in the community. We know that the safest place for some of our children to be is suited to do that. So having said that, we have proposed with our local school district that churches in almost every block around our cities, West Louisville and Shaolin, that we would create a schedule that would allow those students who have lacked participation levels in the spring to actually have a safe place to come. That we would be showing an overabundance of caution, and we would make those ratios actually 5 students to 2 adults. We think that in order for those children to come out better than they went in, that's necessary. We know that a gap is talked about, but it's not a gap, it's a gulf. And in order to close that, we've got to do more than we've ever done. So a ratio of 5 students to 2 adults, one whose primary responsibility would be able to maintain the social distancing that needs to occur. They would help with the based learning, would provide opportunities for everyone in that group at that moment to collaborate on different projects as well, and for communication between the 2 adults, the student, and the teacher. Our hope with this, and I heard this mentioned earlier, is that our district will be supportive by providing substitute teachers to help in that role. We do not want to use classroom teachers because we know they have the responsibility that is on there with their students as the school year progresses, but our hope is that we can use substitute teachers who have already passed criminal background checks, who have already had experience with so many of our kids to actually work for stipend within those centers. So we think we have a really good plan, one that can be modeled, because we know right now around this country there are affluent folks, middle class folks, to come and to supplement their child's remote learning education. But poor Black and brown students and white students at that realm do not have that same opportunity. So our goal is to use the church community to be of support to the classroom teacher, and most importantly, to show some real support for the students who need it most. Thank you.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I just typed in chat that I absolutely love this. I wish and hope that more communities look to this model, and not just in these times, but as a model to sustain education and help build relationships between the communities and educators. In some areas, there's such a divide without understanding on both sides, and I think that this would really help. So thank you very much to both of our speakers for joining us tonight. So we are going to move into breakout rooms next. And we have 2 discussion questions that we would like the breakout rooms to discuss. The first one is, what are 2 to 3 most important ways to make distance learning more equitable in your school? And then, what are the major obstacles to equitable distance learning in your school? So we're trying to, again, see what those commonalities are to help guide national conversations and, hopefully put forward some plans, such as the 2 that we learned about tonight, and get that messaging out on a broader scale. So if you have not joined us before for our breakout rooms, you're going to be magically transported to a different room. So we really need you to pay attention to what room number you get put into. And there's going to be a link in the chat to a Google folder. And in that folder, there's documents, and there's one for each room, and the docs are labeled according to what your room number is. So if you get put into room 6, you're going to open up the doc for 6, breakout room doc 6. And then when you're in that breakout room, we need you to assign roles. Somebody needs to be a note taker, and then somebody needs to be a reporter. And what we've been doing with some of these that have produced some amazing information is we've been sending out summaries afterwards so that everybody can see what the conversations were in other rooms. And I think we're going to have 25 minutes for the breakout room so you can have a discussion. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Rebecca, are you
Yes,
around to
I am here.
assist? Okay, so I don't think we need as many as we said before. It looks like we are at 28 participants right now. So maybe 5 or 6 breakout rooms?
Okay. All right.
Maybe, yeah, that's good. Let's do 6.
6. Okay. All right. Give me 1 sec.
Thank you.
You are welcome. 6 rooms. And we will go with 25 minutes. Okay. And Melissa, can you just drop the link to the slides in the chat so I can project them while you all go?
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you. Okay. Opening rooms in 1 second.
Okay, if you, everybody else besides me is muted. If you want to unmute yourself, we can talk a little bit easier in here. And do we have somebody to volunteer to take notes? Or I can easily take notes on the documents since I do have things open if somebody would at least
Rebecca,
Yes.
volunteer to be our
I have an issue because I don't
person
have
that
a
reports back.
webcam on
It's
my
just for, kind of a
desktop,
minute to give a
so I was
summary
joining
of what
just
we discussed.
listening.
Is there somebody
So
Okay.
who
now I
wants to
just
do that?
joined with my phone, so I don't know if I should just, I don't know what to
Thank you,
do.
Kristen.
Hang on. All right, yeah, we have something weird happening.
You have Melissa hearing, you have Melissa in the background, but
I don't know how. I should not be in a breakout room. Everybody else should be in there.
so
Okay.
maybe,
Okay, I think
maybe,
yeah, so you can totally join. Oh my God, I love your mask. I can put you in a breakout room. It's no big deal. If that's cool, you could just tell people you're listening. No big deal.
okay,
Yeah, is that okay? And everyone else
That's-
who's still in here, are you cool with moving to a breakout room?
Yeah, I was supposed to go to 4, but my internet.
I got you.
yeah,
Thank you.
I was assigned to number 6.
Okay, hang on. I got you. And Terry, I can't hear you.
Mute. Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
I need to be in number 2.
Okay, I got you. Hang on.
Sorry.
It's okay. All right, if you're on Facebook, I'm going to share my screen in just a second. I can't find the slides in the committee folder, comma. Can someone drop them? All right, if you're on Facebook, I'm having some technical difficulties showing you the questions people are using in the breakout, so I'm trying to figure it out. I got a new computer and apparently I didn't share any of the permissions or the right settings, so my bad. Hang on. Face shields are good for large droplets, comma, masks are better for smaller droplets, comma, you need both. Large droplets can turn into smaller droplets, comma, so it's good to stop them. Never mind. I figured it out. I figured it out, comma. And do you still want to do Twitter or no? Question mark. I know you're focusing on local stuff, and I think I accidentally changed the wrong fucking password. I set up a science account for myself, and I think I fucked it up. Oops. I was saying that I think I changed the Twitter password, comma, I meant to change it on my science account, and I'm in 3 different accounts on Twitter, and I fucked it up.
guess we didn't go back yet.
That's really strange. Mine did the same thing.
I pushed the go back button.
I did too.
You're good. People are probably just coming. I'm here. I'm juggling 1,000 things at once.
We're just on the ball. That's all that means.
If we were room 1, we were the room everyone returns to.
I don't know.
But hey, we're back.
Hi, everybody. We coming back now? Okay. Let me pull up the slide presentation again. And share my screen. So we're going to give, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. We're going to give 1 minute for quick report backs. And I will start with group 1. I think I have a timer, right? Somebody's keeping track of time?
Let me know when I can go.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we started with problems. So large families that don't have a computer for everybody, lower income families that struggle with technology, making sure students have enough technology, making sure they have Wi-Fi, attendance with online classes, reaching all stakeholders, making sure everyone's participating, supervision of children at home and kids getting bored were some of the biggest issues. Solutions. We said it's really important to reach out to the families, have parent meetings, build your classes with your students so that there's that engagement, and be an advocate. Get involved with organizations like NEU and the union, because all of these problems are really a choice, a funding choice, a political choice, and they can be solved if we've got the right leadership. And those are our big points. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Group 2?
Hey, that was me. So we talked about mostly how to provide access to students, providing devices and reliable internet access to all families. We talked about how some families have a large amount of students, so we know that there may not be enough devices for each kid, and there also might not be broadband to meet their needs. So making sure that it's really reliable internet, and then have small groups to focus on social emotional learning and communication with peers. We learned about a speech therapist who worked with students in small groups, and that was really effective for those kids. They had the social piece as well as the communication piece met. PD for teachers and staff, as well as materials and devices for staff to have distance learning, because we can't just do it with nothing provided to us. And then the obstacles were really lack of internet, lack of devices, hard to maintain attention for screen time, especially in special education. We had 2 self-contained special education teachers in our room. Needing a lot of assistance with tech and focus, and sensory needs and other needs really get in the way. So finding ways to meet those needs by providing the materials, the devices, and the internet access for them. That was mostly what we talked about.
Thank you. Group 3?
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. I was just, now I got to go back. So group 3, we're talking about many of the same issues. We have some places in Hawaii where not even a hotspot would work because there's not even phone reception. So it kind of gets even deeper when you get more remote. We also have a lot of chaos going on right now politically, with stops and starts, like, okay, we're going to go for a 2-week delay, now another week and another week. So that's been very chaotic and hard for teachers to actually plan. The teacher training for the distance learning was very lacking. And in Virginia, there's been some master scheduling issues There's some places within the state where they're doubling up on the class sizes so that teachers can have planning time. So you might have like 40 or 50 in a class. And so totally moving in the opposite direction of what NEU is saying with smaller class sizes. The screen time for kids is a big concern. And it seems that there's some places that are just mandated a certain amount of screen time without taking into consideration the age appropriateness. And there actually are some national organizations who have come out with recommended screen time. So that should be paid attention to and advocated for. I think that's about it as far as unique to what we talked about compared to the earlier speakers.
Thank you. Group 4.
Okay, well, in my district, we are trying to figure out our professional development and focus on 2 layers. One is on teacher-student relationships, teacher-parent relationships, and how essential that's going to be in bringing in our students and getting their parents as partners in this. The other side is colleague-to-colleague relationships. And with that, we're talking about having some peer observations of our distance learning teaching, and with an eye on engagement, and more specifically, an eye on engagement of our Black and Brown students, because our focus this year is really to elevate those students so that they are seen and heard and are engaged. So that is the work we're doing. We also talked about, with the better relationships, parents and kids are more likely to ask for what they need, and we can address that. And also involving kids to find out what they think they need. As far as obstacles, teachers who have to split their time between 2 schools, for instance, middle school and high school, communication is going to be hard in those cases, and it was difficult even before facing a pandemic. And then, when we aren't seeing all of our students in our classes, and we try and follow up, what is, the plan for complete follow-up with someone else to take care of that and get some wraparound services for that. So.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
I think we're on group 5.
Yeah, I'm going to report for group 5. We heard a lot of concerns that we've already touched on. Too much screen time, certainly a concern. Carla said similar schedules, if we were able to develop similar schedules between schools, that could help. Training on new platforms, we heard from Tina, is critical, making sure, if we're going to roll these new things out, we need to get the training in for teachers. Kathy has noticed an inequity in the pre-K and ECE arena, and certainly the combination of both has been troubling for her. The district's not providing what it needs to for those students. Funding gaps, HVAC systems, and just a general building deficit is something that's big here in Louisville. Do we need to get more staffing to support online instruction was something that brought up as a potential obstacle. Bureaucracy, a lot of politicizing was certainly an obstacle. That was a common theme. Identifying SEL needs and going from there. I think that's about all. We also mentioned racial justice and putting together some demands for our districts. That's what we're looking at in Louisville right now, is how do we turn this into a push for Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. And group 6.
Was that our group? I forgot to write down the number. Sorry.
Yeah, you're up, Kristen.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so we talked about the fact that we need to do needs assessments for students and families. There's some of the teachers in our group work in areas where there's a lot of rural people that are in rural areas, and there's no internet access. There are also concerns about families that don't have money for childcare, and kids who might be left alone during the day while their parents work. There was a really good idea about possibly having day and evening classes, even at the elementary level, so that parents who are out working during the day would be able to help their kids with schoolwork at night. The obstacles we identified were internet access, a need for a lot more tech PD, and even some training for the parents on how to use the technology. Not enough equipment for some of the families if they have a lot of kids. Sometimes they were just given one laptop or one tablet for many children, and that's not enough. And also that we have to be aware to not be giving too many platforms. Every platform, people have to learn how to use it, and that can be overwhelming. I think that was the main things we discussed.
Great, thank you. We're running just a couple minutes over. I just want to quickly give you some ideas for next steps. One thing, when we do have strong collective bargaining in the areas that we do, it's definitely needed at this point in time to make sure that when you're advocating for memorandums of understanding or memorandums of agreement, that you consider the needs of the students and their families around the 4 equitable distance learning demands. You also want to think about equitable grading systems, making sure that it's not punitive in nature, takes individual needs and circumstances into account, but still creates a sense of accountability, and making that accountability self-motivating as well. Not easy, I know it's not. Establish a system of frequent communications with families. Make sure you establish that ahead of time. I think, all good educators think about that, but that's not easy as well. And then there is a guide that's from the National Center for Learning Disabilities that looks at equity in 4 different areas and takes it from different stakeholder groups and then different groups of people that are affected by education. It just got published the other day, and I just started looking through it, and I thought it was a really good way to have some questions in hand when you're speaking with your administrators and others in your district, and it gives you a guide of what types of questions you should be asking.
Is that the link for it there in the chat?
I believe so. I cannot see the chat at the moment, but I will take a look. And Katie, real quick, you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so in kindergarten in my state, we have to do what's called the WA Kids assessment, which includes a family engagement piece, as well as assessing the whole child, including fine motor, gross motor, and so on. And I'm not sure what each state does in kindergarten as far as assessing. This is the very beginning of the year. But these are some things that were brought up in my state group on Facebook about what are some things that we could ask families in a remote environment. And I realized they apply to all teachers. Any kindergarten teacher, any teacher really at all. Some of these really apply to everyone. Talking about what is your family schedule? What are the routines that you have and you keep every day? Who's the primary caregiver during the day? Are parents working from home or outside the home? That's going to be key. If you know they're working outside the home, do they have an older sibling that can support them? Is there someone that can help them at home, or are they not going to be able to attend the synchronous learning? Does the student have video chat experience? Chances are in kindergarten they might not, but if they have video chat experience, you won't have to teach them that whole process. How does the student communicate at home? Do they respond to questions, ask for help, initiate conversations? What kind of technology do you have at home for distance learning? Reliable internet, Wi-Fi? Do you have devices at home that you can use? what are your child's prior learning experiences? Did they go to preschool, daycare, or so on? So that it'll give you a piece of their social background and find out where they're at socially. What materials are needed to assist your family in remote learning? How do families prefer to receive materials for learning? And what is parents' comfort level with helping students with each subject area? And in some cases, this is a bigger question, even higher up. I know for my mom, I was primarily homeschooled for a while with a little bit of in-school experience younger, but that kind of disappeared as I went on. By 6th or 7th grade, I was in school more because she was less comfortable helping me with those science and social studies later on. So having that access in school was really important for me. But if they're not as comfortable helping children with certain subjects, then those are subjects where you as the teacher might have to provide more support in one-on-one or small group settings with that child. So these are some things to really think about as we go into distance learning.
Thank you. Mark, you want to let everybody know about Austerity Committee Town Hall coming up next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So our next town hall will be presented by the Austerity Committee. That's the committee that works on issues of school funding. As we said, it's going to be next Friday, August 21st, 7 p.m., 4 p.m. Pacific Standard. We're going to cover 3 important topics. Number 1, just how much money does America's schools need to make them world-class? We talk all the time about the things we need, but what's that price tag? The second big thing we're going to talk about is, can we afford world-class schools? Can America really afford it? Where can and should we be looking for this money? And the third and final thing we'll be discussing is, what are the strategies that should be employed to get the money that we need to create fully funded and equitable schools for all our children? So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, at this point, I'm going to stop sharing. And Rebecca, we can stop recording and stop the live stream on Facebook?
You got it.
Thank you. And this is a time where we do questions and answers. We hang out and chat and kind of let the discussion become organic and just see where it goes. And I think it was Gabrielle